Welcome to Channel Edge, the podcast where channel leaders share success strategies, best practices, and emerging trends. Brought to you by 360 Insights, the channel success platform.
Welcome to 360 Insights Channel Pulse LinkedIn Live event. I'm Reggie Waterman of 360 Insights. We're so glad that you have been able to join us. Today, we are very excited to have Stephen Kellam, our SVP Global Channel Chief, Claudio Ayub, SVP Technology, Media, and Telecom Practice, alongside our new SVP of Marketing, Heather K. Margolis. They're going to recap you on the most recent channel focus event and discuss what all the buzz was about. Stephen, handing it off to you.
Reggie, hey, thank you for the introductions. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this overview of Channel Focus North America. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Well, a lot has been happening at 360 Insights recently. And before we get into Channel Focus North America, I think we should talk about what transpired, what we announced there, which was really, really cool. And that we acquired both of Heather's company, Channel Maven and Spark. I got to tell you, it was great timing. It was absolutely great timing to watch the excitement of everyone there as we announced. That was fantastic. So Heather, maybe you can tell everybody a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been some time in the making, and you're right. It was super exciting to be able to do that at BAPTI. It was my first event back after being home for so long, and it was so great to be there alongside so many of our friends. Really, nothing has changed as far as Channel Maven's concerned. Still communication to partners, demand gen with partners. The benefit is we now have access to so many more resources and data and really just able to help 360 clients as well as customers outside of that ecosystem.
Claudio, so why don't we start with you?
Well, hey, Heather and I go back a long, long time. I remember she was about 16 when you
I was going to say I was 12, right, Claudio?
and that's when we met. We used to run a program called Journey to the Top.
Yes.
I was doing the technology and the fulfillment and the rewards type programs. But it's great to have you on the team, Heather. And I think we're going to do phenomenal things.
Yes, it's all coming full circle. So when I was at EMC, Claudio was selling into EMC, and yes, I was 16. Thank you, Claudio. And it's all super, super exciting all around.
Yeah, I think the whole event was exciting. I'm curious what both of you think. Sometimes people say this was an exciting event and it's hyperbole. I've got to say that while the acquisition of both your companies, Heather, was one of the big things, I've got to say people coming together for the first time in a long time, the energy that people brought, I thought the presentations were great. I thought the participations were great. I'm really curious what both of you guys think. I've been to a lot of these events where people sort of drift off during the event. I felt like everyone was engaged, everyone cared, everyone brought it. Yeah. I thought it was one of the best events that I had been to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge germaphobe. So this was my second travel since the pandemic. And I just felt like they were super cautious. Rod and his team did an amazing job. Everyone was either vaxxed or tested or vaxxed and tested. And it felt really safe. And to your point, Stephen, there were some really very senior people. We're never allowed to talk about who was there or who said what, but there were some really amazing conversations at a very senior level, as well as, I'm on the board of the Women's Leadership Council. So many amazing mentor opportunities for women earlier in their career to be able to talk to a very senior level woman in the channel was pretty awesome.
Maybe that's a good place. Oh, sorry, Claudia. I was going to say maybe that's a good place to start because it was the precursor to the event, which I think Rod has done. Plugs to Rod has done a great job getting a bunch of powerful people there a day ahead of time, which doesn't hurt any as far as having really powerful people there at the event as well.
One of the best things is exactly what we missed last year, Stephen. We're talking with Stephen a year ago about the fact that, hey, we didn't get to mingle, we didn't get to have a drink with one another, and that just makes a world of difference. It was fantastic, not only to see everybody, but to share a drink, break bread together was phenomenal. It really made a world of difference to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think he does Women's Leadership Council the day before intentionally so that some women who may be a little more hesitant to mingle the very first day of a conference feel like they've met, a third or a quarter of the attendees already. So they have something in common. But yeah, it certainly was nice to be, the content was amazing. The socializing was really, I think, above all, what people were drawn to.
So speaking of content, so there's three things that came to my mind. And once again, maybe we can go around and talk about it. The three things that I heard were, there was still a lot of conversation around distribution, and we can unpack that in a second. Marketplace. I like saying marketplace on the airplane all the way home. This is a marketplace. My kids are like, what's a marketplace? I'm telling marketplace all day long. And the third one was marketing capabilities for partners, and still a lack of understanding where that needs to go. So those were my big three. What about you, Claudio?
I got one new term, right, that goes along those lines, Stephen, and that is partner assisted, right? In today's new environment, we find partners assisting vendors, right, and collaborating among other partners to deliver to their customers. So partner assisted was a word that really caught my ear.
Heather?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it, Stephen. Distribution was such a huge play, and making sure that that we're using distribution correctly, that distribution has sort of changed their model to be better in line with influencers. And then to Claudio's point, partner assisted and influencers, right? So these aren't people who necessarily carry a number. If you think of the old tiering models where we would say, you're tier 2 because this was your revenue last year. Well, guess what? They don't have that revenue, but they can be attributed to certain revenue. And then, of course, marketing enablement is something that's always, I built a whole second company just based on the fact that we weren't enabling partners the way they really needed to be. So that's something I'm super passionate about as well.
But I've got to say, even Dr. Baptiste's survey at the end of the conference pointed out that the two-tier distribution model is going away. Right. And what I heard, very loudly is, of course, they're going to exist. And we're on the tip of the spear here in North America. But if you think globally, right, distributors are going to be there for another 5 years, probably. Right. But at least in North America, everybody is going to a single tier, that is to say, direct and or channel assisted and or marketplace, like Stephen was saying.
Did we just give Rod a PhD?
I don't think so.
What is he, a doctor of Scottish golf? Yeah, he's a doctor of something. Hey, look, on the distribution side, I'm just curious what both of you think. Is this just determined? They're not going to go away. The question is, what do they become? And how fast does that happen? I laughed a little bit, right? Look, I was an MSP in 2008. And we're like, we need to get out of this business because, sorry, nothing against Dell, but Dell's going to be the MSP for everybody and we'll never survive. And, 10 years later, the number one training course is how to be an MSP. So it evolved. They didn't go away. The ones that were really good and evolved are successful. And I look at PAX 8.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can talk, Claudia, about what is a distributor and what does that really mean? Because I see them as a very different enablement sort of role.
Right. So PAX 8 is really a perfect example of that new distributor. Now, it looks a whole lot more like a marketplace than it does your typical two-tier distribution model, right? But PAX 8 is, by all intent, the purpose is considered a distributor. Yet, you as a partner are going to go consume, from this particular distributor, right, in a way that resembles that marketplace very, very much. It is all consumption. It is all subscription. Yet it is that what I consider to be that new distributor model, right? That, again, looks very much like a marketplace.
Well, and I think, too, when you take into consideration, you have your top tier partners that you're focused on, and you don't need to go through distribution because they're managed. There's a huge long tail of partners that if every one of those small enterprise or mid-sized companies had to then support those partners as well, I think distribution has shown their value in really having the mind share of those partners for the mid-size IT companies.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing for me is listening to organizations that go back and forth on whether that long tail matters, Heather. I think, and it tends to ebb and flow depending on who's coming in seniority, right? And who's coming in to run their program and what they're going to do. What I've seen over the past 15 years is there's a little bit ebb and flow on all that. And I think because of that, as you said, that near-tier group and their relationship they have in the market, I think they're going to be around for a while. And they're going to need some of that assistance from somebody.
Yeah, and in many instances, good thing you brought that up, Stephen. Those long-tail partners, a lot of the time could be professional services partners. I'm talking about HR companies, marketing companies, right? Accounting firms, right? They used to go to a distributor. Now they may be going to a partner, right? But they're going to always exist, the long tail. But these days, there's a lot more partners, especially when we think about influencer partner, referral partners, otherwise known as non-transacting partners. And so, yes, if you want to engage them, right, Stephen, you want to go through distribution to capture that long tail for sure. But when it comes to professional services partners, like the companies I just mentioned, that may be a little bit different, right? And everybody's after that. At Channel Focus, one of the main things that I heard from all panelists is, how do I engage non-transacting partners? How do I engage influencers? They don't want to get a reward. They need something else. What's the model to do that? And I think the presenters came back with a very strong value proposition around those non-transacting partners.
Heather?
Yeah, I agree. I think it always comes down to demand gen, right? They either want support in driving demand, they want the recognition. So that means the tech company is out there on their social talking about how great this influencer partner is. And to some extent, they want incentives around their behavior. You're not incenting the sale, but you're incenting that they're posting on their social or that they're doing some sort of demand gen around your solutions. So incentives and demand gen are certainly, maybe that's why there was an acquisition recently of a demand gen company and an incentive company.
But I gotta say, I was very impressed that after all these years, we totally moved to a behavioral incentive model, right? And I've heard the audience about putting incentives on the front end as opposed to after the transaction. And we've been preaching that for many years, and I think the pandemic had a lot to do with accelerating behavior-based incentives to the extent that it's a common practice today.
Yeah. Go ahead, Heather.
No, I was just going to say, and it's a good transition to marketplaces, because when you're, Stephen, you, Claudio, and I have been part of the channel marketplace for over a year now. And we're really seeing that it is based on influencing versus a transaction. So we've lived it as well.
I got to say, I saw a lot of people, I'm not going to say scratching their head, because that's a negative. I saw a lot of people thinking, how do I make a marketplace work? Because while we all say it's like the newest thing and it's the way to go, it takes work. One of the best things that transpired there, Heather and Claudio, was the fact that you were able to go out into a hallway and you could watch a presentation on influencers. And you could go, all right, let's really talk about this. And then someone had just been in, or we had all just been in one on marketplaces. And people were thinking, okay, how do I make that work? How to make that work? And the conversations in the hallways of people examining their strengths and weaknesses and the openness of those conversations, to me, that's the win-win of Channel Focus, right? And finding someone that knew a little bit more than you or had been there, that had done that can help you solve your problems. That's really where I saw it being really beneficial.
Yeah, I've always talked about the nice thing is people sort of leave their logo and their title at the door, and they're having these open conversations. That's super helpful, for sure.
I had a workshop that I was helping out on, and it was around consumption, right, and subscription models, and we're beginning the workshop. I get to do the first question. I said, so why don't you tell me what consumption is? And I asked one of the participants. And then somebody on the other side jumped and said, but wait a minute, what about this? Because I think of consumption this way. And there was a third and a fourth and a fifth. And really, this acceleration of digital transformation that occurred during the pandemic has all of our industry, looking and thinking looking at things and thinking about them differently, to the extent that I found even hardware consumption models.
Yes.
Okay? And I won't say which vendor was talking about that, but I was amazed that somebody just put together a hardware consumption model program in a way that resembles software consumption.
Wait. So, okay, once again, as a managed service provider, 9 years ago, there was hardware as a service. And
right.
It just never went anywhere. And look, I don't think this is all that sophisticated. I think if you can do toothbrushes as a service, you can do hardware as a service.
For sure. But then putting definitions around and building programs is where I'm seeing a lot of vendors struggle, right? Engaging partners. My goodness, it takes about 4 to 5 different products today to become a solution. And those 4 to 5 different products are typically now delivered by 4 to 5 different partners. So vendors are really struggling, to engage those partners, especially the non-transacting ones.
Well, and I think we have to realize that, for companies that are like, oh, we're not going to do marketplaces, that's not the direction we're going in. It's based on the customer's behavior. So if I, as a customer, am used to purchasing everything from dog clothing to food to, all sorts of different household products on Amazon, then as a professional, that's also how my behavior has changed. And this is right back 15 years ago when I was talking about social, and people in B2B were saying to me, nobody cares what I had for breakfast. I don't need to post on Twitter that I went for a run. And I said, no, but the human behavior is changing in that direction, and we need to catch up. So to all of the tech companies out there saying, man, we don't need to embrace marketplaces, that's not where we're going. Well, I hate to say it, but that's where your partners and your customers are going. So you really need to make sure that you are at least playing a small role, even on the hardware side. I just got a notification from my printer that I'm out of paper. Like my printer told me I'm out of paper and is ordering some for me. Thank you.
It's where the customer, makes their buying decision. The customer is going to dictate where they want to buy, right? And 33% of them in the next few years are going to be doing that from a marketplace. Another 33 may be doing it direct. And ultimately, there's the partner assisted, right? So definitely where the customer wants to buy.
Look, I think you could Claudio, I think you summed up nicely that 2 years ago, we were talking about digital transformation. And I remember someone even 2 years ago said it's already taken place. You're already in the middle of it. I definitely think everyone here realized they were in the middle of it. And I think one of the key aspects that we were talking about a year ago was that CX to PX. And I think everybody was sort of embracing that. That sounds really cool. But I think, Heather, it became work for people. It's not as easy as it looks, but I think you're right. Eventually, everyone is going to have to adapt. And I think marketplaces, it's just a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Overall, amazing event. It was great to see people in person, and looking forward to the next.
I run the biggest tab ever at Channel Focus this year. So that had to count for something. I think
now I actually care because it's my budget. So.
and I'm like, that's great, Claudio. Spend away.
I think you did the same, Stephen, handing out gift cards.
We did. You know what? This was all about behavior modification.
He's incenting behavior.
I was incenting behavior. It was all that.
Yeah, well, hey, the only person who's ever gotten an audience at a conference to put their phones down, except to take screenshots, of course, Mr. Stephen Kellam.
Yes, bravo.
Bravo. Hey, look, Heather, Claudio, thank you for getting together and chatting a little bit. It was a great event. And everybody who's listening, thank you for joining us. And we're looking forward to the next event.
Yep.
Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Channel Edge, brought to you by 360 Insights, the channel success platform. Subscribe now on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play, and you'll always be the first to access new episodes where channel leaders share success strategies, best practices, and emerging trends. For bookings, feedback, questions, or comments, feel free to email us at channeledge@360insights.com.